Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Seahawks Forever from the temporary studio here in Maple Valley, Washington. Good to have you. Today I'm going to do something that popped into my head a week or so ago, and then things kind of went off the rails in my personal life. But it's called red flag, green flag, and what I'm going to do here is kind of talk about the things that I think about this team with 6 weeks remaining in the regular season that tell us the good things and the bad things as it pertains to their potential and their ability to compete and contend and possibly get to the Super Bowl. That's the bar now. That's the standard that we're trying to hold. I'm on record saying I think this team is capable now of winning a Super Bowl. You might think I'm crazy, but they are. The margin for error might be a little slimmer than it is for some of the other contenders, and that's kind of what this is about. I think there are some things about this team now that we know through 11 weeks that indicate they can achieve that level. But there are also some things that I think might be their fatal flaws and ultimately hold them back. That's going to be the focus today on Seahawks Forever, right after this.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
All right, you guys. Thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. My temporary studio. Again, if you didn't watch last night, thanks to the folks from Dove, totally unpaid. They just sent me this gift. That is like a game quality jersey that they sent me for a new line of products here. I've got the deodorant right here. Boom. It's Beast Mode. It's got his own line of products with Dove. I've used the body wash. It's fantastic. But this jersey is like a real game jersey signed by him. So pretty cool. Pretty damn cool. Also doing something cool today. Spent the day dealing with a lot of stuff pertaining to my father's passing on Sunday. And one of them is going through a lot of his old clothes and come across some really, really cool stuff. He was a lot smaller dude than me, but he bought things bigger than he needed to. And so we're the same size in a lot of things. And so came across this NFC Championship hoodie from 2013. It's got the Super Bowl emblem, Super Bowl 48 down there too. He's probably only worn it like twice. Like that's what my dad did. He like bought stuff and then never wore it. He bought stuff he shouldn't have bought. It's super comfortable. And when I say comfort, I mean in both of the different ways, right? It's super soft and but also comforting, if that makes sense. Also, he was a hat guy. Talked about this on the live stream last night. And I don't know, this might be my new thing, right? What is this? A newsboy? I think it's called. I don't know. A lot of his hats, I've tried a bunch of them on. They're too puffy. Didn't really like them, but this one, I'm kind of into it. Been wearing it all day. So hope you like it. Let's do this because I want to tackle this stuff first, and then we'll get to the red flag, green flag. If you'll just humor me for a moment. I had another really good week picking games in our Seahawks Forever pool. Unbeknownst, unlike my history, not usually very good at this kind of stuff. Went 10-5 last week. I think I'm still in second place in the league, though. I'll update that later in the week and show the standings. But right now, if you want to get in on this, it's number one fastest growing sports app, and it is for a reason. It is just the best, period. If you want to play fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports, you want to pick games like we are in our Seahawks Forever pool. There's about 35 of us in there. Or if you prefer the games as skill, and right now is the best time to get in on it. They're just going to give you $20 to get started without even making a deposit. You can see the offer right there to the right of me. But if you want to go a little farther than that, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100, 100% if you just use that promo code forever. So check out the Sleeper app today. And then the Sizzle All the Way sale still going on at Omaha Steaks, and we'll be going on for the next 3 weeks. This is another product that I'm very, very proud to have as a sponsor because we've been eating Omaha Steaks in my family for a very, very long time, and all the way back to when I was a kid. Like this was a thing. My dad loved cooking steaks, and he loved ordering from Omaha Steaks. And so it is very, very fitting in the moment. And just a couple of years ago, my brother surprised me by sending me a big case of these at my birthday. And that is, I think, where their true value lies. They are USDA certified steaks, and they have every cut available. So get a variety pack, because right now on omahasteaks.com, you're going to get 50% off site-wide, plus an additional $35 off at checkout for using the promo code FOREVER. See, that's the benefit of watching my show. You don't just get, I hope, solid personality. I don't know about that part. Analysis, fandom, whatever reason you watch for, and I'm humbled by all of you that do. But also you get to save a bunch of money on steaks. Maybe you get tired of turkey after Thursday and you can eat steak all December long. So omahasteaks.com, 50% off site wide, plus an additional $35 off at checkout using the promo code FOREVER. Shout out also to my boys over at Fast Fashion Brewing on First Avenue across the street from Showbox Soto. If you're going to the game this Sunday, slip in there, man. They have some of the best beers in Seattle. I'm telling you, they have a wide range of different styles. And their Bavarian Pilsner was just named one of the top 20 beers in the country for 2025. So head on in there. And if you do, tell them I sent you, tell them you watch Seahawks Forever. All right, let's go to this. First of all, we have some news to react to. Oh, I turned over here. I don't have my regular mixer. I had the breaking news kind of a sound hit. I don't have that. Seahawks released Derion Kendrick today. Surprising news, caught me by surprise. I think it caught everyone by surprise, even the beat writers that cover the team full time, because we saw what he did weeks 2 and 3, right? It was remarkable with just like 4 or 5 practices under his belt after they claimed him on the cut down to 53 from the LA Rams roster. He played slot because Emin Ward got hurt 5 snaps into week 1 and Devin Witherspoon was out. So he played slot corner against the Steelers and Saints. He had never played slot before. I think he had like 7 snaps in his career. He was an outside guy with the Rams, started 12 games for them in 2023, missed the entire 24 season with an ACL injury. But he took to the slot position like a fish to water, had an interception in both those games, had a couple other interceptions bounce off of his hands or his helmet, but he had that diving end zone interception against the Steelers. Then he had another one the next week against the Saints, played about 70% of the snaps in those 2 games combined. And then once everyone got healthy, didn't play a lot, but we talked about him in terms of like, this might be a solid Mike McDonald style corner, because even though he didn't have like a lot of the big measurable traits that Arik Woolen has, for example, didn't have great long speed. He was 6 foot tall, but not the longest corner, but played, as I said, all outside in LA. And he was a physical guy. Like, he didn't mind coming up and hitting in the run game. So I thought he really fit. And, Devin Witherspoon's the only corner that's under contract for next year. So it made sense to maybe he would get the Josh Jobe deal next year, right? Another 1-year prove-it deal. He'd be part of that mix if they let Arik Woolen walk. So cutting him was surprising because I don't expect him to make it through waivers. Remember, after the trade deadline, doesn't matter if you're a vested veteran or not, everyone has to go through waivers. I don't think he gets through. In fact, my buddy Jake Ellenbogen, who covers the Rams, has been on the show many times, just on a couple weeks ago. He thinks it's possible the Rams claim him again. They wanted to keep him. It was one of those cases where they were hoping he'd get through waivers so they could keep him on the practice squad. But even with Emmanuel Forbes playing at such a high level, and they picked up Roger McCreary at the deadline, like, I could see them claiming him again. If they don't, someone else will. This time of year, guys are banged up and stuff. He certainly accounted for himself well in weeks 2 and 3. I think there might be a couple things going on here. I wrote about this on Seahawks SI just a few minutes ago. First of all, it is a numbers game. He hadn't been playing. He had, for the last 5 games, he had 0 defensive snaps, was only playing on special teams. And that wasn't his strength. He was prominently figured in the punt return for a touchdown by Shamir Dike against the Titans on Sunday. So that might have been part of it. He wasn't a good enough special teams player to provide the value they needed to keep him on the roster if he wasn't going to play with everyone healthy. But also, I think the emergence of Nehemiah Pritchett. And I've been telling you guys, I'm going to do a whole show on this in a couple days about just like, let's stop thinking, let's stop overreacting to small sample sizes in the extreme when you see someone play a couple of snaps. Because, all the Seahawks continue to do is prove us wrong with guys like that, right? How many of you thought Ty Okada sucked 2 months ago and didn't belong on the roster? Or Drake Thomas? Great examples there. Pritchett's another guy. I've been telling you, the team loves him, coaches love him. But there's this perception like he was near one of the touchdown passes against Tampa Bay after some guys left with injury. And so that must mean that he's terrible without any context of what his responsibility was on that play. Or, oh, by the way, just the fact that it's one snap and he's a young player and young players get better. But we saw him against the Cardinals have to play some significant snaps because of injury, right? We saw that phenomenal play, maybe the best defensive player of the year for the Seahawks so far, where he knocked that ball away from Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a guy that figures into the long-term plans. And so with some of the injuries, they put Ty Okada on injured reserve. They signed Quandre Diggs today to the practice squad. That's pretty cool. He's 32 years old now. Not sure if we're ever even going to see him on the field, but a nice little insurance policy there. Julian Love eligible to come off the injured list this week. And so there's a lot of moving parts in that secondary. Maybe they just needed that spot and just thought, hey, we feel good enough about Pritchett. Also, don't forget, not only do they have Shaq Griffin on the practice squad, but they have Shamar Jean-Charles, who they signed in the offseason, played for New Orleans last year. So there was some exposure there to Rick Dennison and John Benton. I know those are offensive coaches, but they were around him. He's still just 27 years old and really had a nice year last year and then was hurt during training camp. So really didn't get to show himself. They just must have felt good enough that they could afford to lose Kendrick. Also keep this in mind. He had some off-field issues earlier in his career, the kind of off-field issues that usually become red flags for the Seahawks and cause them to not sign guys. And so maybe the personality just wasn't a perfect fit. He might have just been the right guy at the right time, weeks 2 and 3, when they needed a body, and he gave him some quality snaps. Like, if that's his legacy with the Seahawks, cool. He really helped us in 2 wins earlier this season. So if he gets through waivers, maybe they bring him back to the practice squad, but I'm not so sure. I think we might have seen the last of Derion Kendrick. All right, let's get to my red flags and green flags. Let's start. Should we start with the good news? Yeah, let's start with the red flags, and then we'll finish with the good stuff, okay? These are things that I see that I think could potentially hold them back when they get to the playoffs and hold them back from reaching the Super Bowl. Because as much as I talk about, like, every team has weak links, every team has an Achilles heel. There aren't very many complete teams in the NFL this year. And actually, as we sit here today in week 12 or going on to week 13, I think the Rams might be the only team in the entire league that can make a case for being a complete team. It's hard to look at that team right now. In fact, you can't. I would argue you can't. Maybe Carnell Lake being out weakens their safety room just a touch, but I think they have enough guys to make up for that. I think they're a complete team right now, and they're all playing together like one. You look at the AFC, and who's the best team in the AFC? Is it the New England Patriots? Well, I don't consider them a complete team. I still think they lack some weapons on the outside. There's some questions about the running back room. And it's such a young roster that has played, I believe, if not the easiest schedule, one of the 2 or 3 easiest schedules in the NFL this year, that I don't consider that a complete team. So almost every single team has some sort of weakness that concerns you. And so that's where these fall into that category. Things that might ultimately hold the Seahawks back. One right off the top is Anthony Bradford. And I know that I have been supportive of him. Supportive might be a strong word. It's not like I've sat here and said he's the future. He's a second contract guy. Don't give up on him. I think he's going to be a great player. But I have said that he has shown more flashes this year of being a competent player. You can see some of the improvement. And the unit as a whole has performed so well with him that there isn't a better option on the roster right now, at least not as long as Jalen Sundell is on the injured list. We'll have a discussion when he comes off. I've opined that maybe Olu at center, Sundell at right guard might give you your best five. We'll find out. But without there being a better option right now, they've been good enough with him to overcome that. As almost, again, every team in the NFL has to overcome some weakness in some position group somewhere. And ironically, regardless of what you think of PFF, it is a measuring stick, and it is a unit of measure that is consistent in how they execute it, whether you agree with their methodology or not. Anthony Bradford was the highest graded offensive lineman for the Seahawks in their win against the Titans on Sunday. It's true. Look it up. Overall, his overall grade and his run blocking grade was really good. It was best on the team. Abe Lucas had the best pass blocking grade. And that's going up against Jeffrey Simmons, one of the best interior defensive tackles in the league, and Tavondre Sweat. But what people like to do is they like to take the clips and they like to show him like facing the quarterback or whatever. And that's why it's a red flag. Not the clips themselves, but because his bad reps are so bad that, it happens 4 or 5 times a game where he has such a bad rep that it really blows up the play. And even in the way that I think Clint Kubiak schemes and calls plays, he has to kind of account for that. Right? We saw one of the issues against the Rams is our running backs weren't getting out into the flat quick enough to be a viable check down for Sam Darnold on a day where his internal clock wasn't as good as it normally is. And maybe he was struggling to read some of the things that Chris Shula was doing to him on defense because they had to stay in and make sure that they didn't need to be. It was almost like they were having to use 5.5 blockers on every play. And so that in and of itself, those things you can get by with over a 17-game season. But you get into the playoffs where it's do or die, win or go home against the best of the best. And those things can be amplified sometimes. And so I do worry that if they end up having to go into the playoffs with Anthony Bradford, they're going to be playing better defenses, better players, teams that will have the ability and the capability to pick on that a little bit more. It's kind of like the baseball analogy. When you get in, you have like during the regular season, your 5-man rotation is really good and it's good enough to get you to 92, 93 wins. But you get into the playoffs and you have that one guy that has to start a game in the playoffs that was good enough in the regular season, but not good enough in that kind of intensity, that kind of environment against a really complete lineup. It's different, right? So that's the first one. Second one, I think, is I'm going to save this one till the end. Lack of a finisher on defense. In the time leading up to the trade deadline, we heard the talk. And I related some of the things that I was hearing from people that are connected to the team. They checked in on Myles Garrett. They checked in on Bradley Chubb. They checked in on Trey Hendrickson, but not to as much of an extent. And they worked really hard to try to pry Max Crosby away from the Raiders. And some of you said, why? Why would you give up so much to get a guy like that when we have such a good edge group? And we do. And this goes right into the analogy of that starting pitching rotation in the playoffs that I talked about before. If you have a bunch of 2 and 3 starters, you can get through the regular season. You can win 95 games. But you get to the playoffs, it's usually the teams that have a really legitimate one that advance. Not always. We knocked out the Tigers with Tarek Skubal, right? But normally, you have that one dude, it can take you farther. Chenna Nwosu, healthy again, is a really good player. Derek Hall is a very good player. But I think Derek Hall's maybe the best example of kind of what I'm talking about here. DeMarcus Lawrence, very good player near the end of his career. Boye Mafe, not going to be back next year. The production hasn't matched the talent. We see he helps with that pressure package at times, but we don't have that one dude that can just flat out beat a tackle and get to the quarterback that defenses or offensive coordinators have to scheme for. And when a game is on the line, and Sunday was a perfect example, where that last long touchdown drive by Cam Ward, some people have dismissed it as garbage time. It was a little bit more than that, I think. Cam played really well, and it pulled him to within one score, made the score look like the game was closer than it was. If you have a guy like that, you can end a game. All those fourth down conversions that the Titans completed on Sunday. You have a guy like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, that individual can step up and finish a game for you, a closer, a finisher. And they're just not there. They just don't have that guy. And honestly, I don't think any of those guys have that upside. I think even Derek Hall, when he ultimately becomes what he can be, and right now he needs to just finish more reps. Like, he's getting pressure. He's not getting to the quarterback. He's not getting home. I don't see that kind of upside in him. It's why I fully expect the Seahawks to engage the Raiders again this offseason for Crosby, especially if, as it now appears, they are headed for a full rebuild. I think it's possible that Crosby asks for a trade. Now, Seahawks might not have as much ammunition to pull it off in the offseason because part of the package they offered at the deadline included Mafe, Woolen. So we'll see. Those guys are on expiring contracts. They won't be available anymore. But I've been told that Mike McDonald wants a guy like that. As much as he likes the guys he have, and as much as he succeeded in Baltimore without one of those guys, he wants one. Imagine how good this defense would be if they just added that one more thing. And that's the kind of thing, again, that gets amplified in the playoffs because you're playing teams that have better offensive lines with better quarterbacks. And then the third red flag, I would say, is the over-reliance on JSN. What a remarkable year he's having. Phenomenal year. He's a great dude. He's a great player. He should be a Seahawk for life. They're going to open up, they're going to back up the Brinks truck a year and 2 months from now. I think when he signs his contract, it'll probably be the biggest wide receiver contract of all time at that time. And they'll figure out a way to make that work. But what if, man? What if he gets hurt? It's clear that Sam hasn't developed any chemistry with Rashid Shaheed yet, which I wouldn't expect that he would. Like, that chemistry that he has with JSN, we marvel at it because it's their first year playing together. But by the time they hit the field week 1 against San Francisco, they had been working together since April. All those reps during OTAs and the trip that they all take to work on stuff in the offseason and training camp and preseason, those all add up. And that's where you develop that chemistry. He just doesn't have it right now with Shaheed. And whether it's a trust issue or not, or that's just not where his wiring is to go with his read. And with Torrey Horton out, like, God forbid JSN should have to miss any time. And then what would that offense look like? So to me, that's a concern. Even if JSN stays healthy, to beat the better teams, the better defensive coordinators, the better defenses in the playoffs, you have to have more answers. And I think you have to start getting other guys involved in this offense. There's signs that they're getting the tight ends, AJ Barner, a little bit more involved, and the running backs the last 2 weeks, really promising. But I think that wide receiver group, someone needs to get more involved as well. Used to be one of those people that could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. It was awesome. But over the last few years, that's changed. If it's outside noise or neighbors in my building, midnight zoomy cat Olympics, or just the effects of age, it's gotten tougher. For years now, I've had to run a fan for white noise, and I've tried melatonin and sleep aids, but I wake up feeling groggy, and that's no way to start the day. But then I was introduced to the Manta Sound Sleep Mask. And this thing, guys, I'm telling you, this is a game changer. It gives me true 100% blackout and has ultra-thin Bluetooth 5.2 speakers built right into the mask. So I can fall asleep to the sound of music, something I've done since I was a kid. And I'm telling you, the sound quality of these speakers honestly blew me away. I was not expecting them to be as good as they are. And now I don't have to deal with earbuds falling out while I toss and turn. Plus, it's got a 20-hour battery life and can be used without the speakers. You simply remove that outer layer held on by Velcro. So if falling asleep at night or just taking a much-needed nap has gotten tougher for you too, check out the Manta Sound Sleep Mask at mantasleep.com. And if you use my promo code FOREVER, they're going to give you 10% off your purchase. So just go to the description of this video, click the link, use the promo code, and enjoy the best sleep you've ever. All right, guys, let's talk about the good stuff, right? The green flags, the reason that the things that stand out to me most about this team and the way they're playing right now that do bode well for making a deep run in the playoffs and contending for the Super Bowl. The first one is defensive consistency and depth. That's what I'm calling this. You take away that Tampa Bay game when there were some injuries. Those aren't always an excuse. Tampa Bay has had a couple of guys in their secondary out for that game too. But then we also lost two key contributors on defense during the game. That's a little harder to adjust to. You don't get to game plan for it. But despite that game, it's week in and week out. We're starting to, like, I just expect it now. When I go to watch this team play on Sundays, like, the pressure's going to be consistent. Even early in that game, when it seemed like maybe they were a little flat and they just didn't have as much juice as we're used to seeing, I wasn't worried that it wouldn't show up. I wasn't worried it would be another Tampa Bay. I just knew it would be there. And now you start to see it on the back end too. And what those guys are doing, they're not allowing explosive plays. Devin Witherspoon is taken really well to the outside. I saw today he's the second highest rated cornerback in the NFL by PFF. And there were some people who thought, well, he's going to thrive in the slot, but he's not cut out for playing more outside corner. He clearly is. I'd like to see the interceptions show up, though. Still only has the one week 3 of his rookie year, the pick 6. He needs to start getting some ball production. And then Reek Wallen playing at a really high level right now as well. We're not even talking about Josh Jobe, and he's playing well too. Ty Okada, what he's come in and done. And how good do you feel about the inside linebacker group now? I was doing some mock drafts the other day. I'm not taking a linebacker. I mean, there's some guys that I like, Sonny Styles, maybe at the end of the first round, maybe if they're longer, taller, freakish athletes that they can move around a little bit, but they have that in Emin Warrior already. And so that's sort of redundant. Like, I feel like heading into next year, Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight, now that he's healthy, Drake Thomas, Patrick O'Connell was a freaking demon on Sunday. And oh, by the way, they have Chris Paul from Ole Miss, a 5th-round draft pick last year that they poached from the Rams when they tried to get him through waivers at the cut down to 53, that I think they're really high on and was a solid prospect coming out, a draftable guy. Obviously, I've talked to his dad a little bit in the last couple of months. He says, hey, the team's saying good things to him, telling him they really like him. I think they're good inside linebacker. I really do. Everybody thought that was a panic situation heading into the season, but I think it just goes to show now Ty Okada, like, that's safety group, Kobe Bryant's made himself some money this year. He was looking pretty smart for turning down an extension before the year. And maybe he's a guy that they just have to compromise on. Maybe he gets too expensive for them and they aren't able to retain him. But don't you feel pretty good about Ty Okada? I mean, he's on injured reserve now, got hurt, but man, he was looking good before that. So, and I also just trust Mike McDonald to go find a safety. Their consistency, their depth just gives me confidence and faith that each and every week they have a chance to win no matter who they're facing. That's huge. The other green flag is a other side of the coin from a red flag. JSN. Like, the best teams, the teams that make deep playoff runs, have elite players. And one of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years here as a negative with the Seahawks is lack of blue chip players. I did an inventory of this about a year and a half ago. I think it was 2 off seasons ago, where, because this last off season, the 49ers let a lot of their defensive stalwarts walk out the door in free agency. Guys like Hufanga and Greenlaw. And we did an accounting, and we could only identify 2, maybe 3 Seahawks that were blue chip players, and the 49ers had 11. Usually, Daniel Jeremiah talks about this a lot. Usually, the championship contender type teams have 7 to 9. I mean, JSN is obviously a blue chip. In fact, most of the conversation now is he the best wide receiver in the NFL? I think right now he is. And I think he's still young and he's still going to get better. He alone makes it hard for defensive coordinators to game plan because how do you defend him? We've seen teams double him. We've seen teams bracket him. We've seen zone. We've seen man, and he's been beating it all. 11 straight games of 75-plus receiving yards. Only two players ever before him have done that, Cooper Kupp and Marvin Harrison Sr., the Hall of Famer. Great players make great plays in great moments, and having a guy like that, you have a chance to win every game because he's that kind of a weapon. And then I think the other green flag that bodes really well for them in the playoffs, it is looking increasingly more and more like the Seahawks are going to have to play at least the first week on the road. Even if they beat the Rams in week 16, even if they went out and they finished tied again, it looks like the Rams would get the tiebreakers yet again, just like last year. It might get down to the fourth or fifth tiebreaker, might get down to conference record. Right now, they have a little bit of an edge when it comes to that. If it gets down to strength of schedule, they have a slightly better edge because they finished higher than us in the standings last year. And so they played that one or two uncommon opponents with a little bit better winning percentage. But the ability to go on the road and win, as the Seahawks have, I think they're 12 out of their last 13, gives that team confidence. Now, playing on the road in the playoffs is a different animal, much more intense environment against much better teams. But it's never a bad thing to know that you've had success in a certain area. This team, it doesn't matter who, they have to travel to Philadelphia in the first round and play them in the wild card. You think they're going to feel like, oh man, we got to go to Philly. That's not the way this team's going to think. And whatever it is that Mike McDonald's doing to prepare this team for the road as if it's no big deal, the process, he loves to talk about the process that he has to get these guys ready is obviously working. And that gives them a leg up, I think, over a lot of these other teams because they won't flinch. They won't be deterred at all by having to go on the road and win in the playoffs. If you guys would please subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support me as a full-time independent content creator. Just it helps the algorithm to know that we should push this video out to more people. A couple of other things, if we check out nwforever.com, that'll take you over to the Patreon page where all of my content lives under one roof. Seahawks Forever, Mariners Forever. I'll be adding a new episode there in the next couple of days. Audio, video, Substack. Again, I'd like to thank all of those that have read the Substack. Normally, my articles, I just started the Substack a couple months ago. Normally, my articles get about 150 views. The tribute that I wrote to my dad is up to about 400, and the feedback has been overwhelming. And I know I said it last night. I'll continue to say it. Thank you so much. Little side note, we scheduled his funeral service today. It's going to be at the Tahoma Memorial Cemetery in Maple Valley because he was a proud former Marine, fought in the Korean War. He's going to get the full military service. Really looking forward to that. It's really exciting. And we had some days to pick from, and we kind of had to pick a certain day that fit with my sister and her kids and some daycare needs. December 12th at noon. So he passed during the game on Sunday while the Seahawks were up by 2 scores. Now he's going to be laid to rest at 12. We didn't plan that. Total coincidence. But he might have had something to do with that. Follow me on Twitter is the best way to always see my content because I'll always link everything there. But let me just say one last thing. I'm going to start tweeting. I'm not going to tweet during games anymore. There's just so much negativity and extremism there. I can't handle it. I'm a more analytical person. I like to be a little bit more rational, sometimes passionate. Sometimes I get emotional. Fine. So I'm during games, I'm going to be over in our Discord, which is attached to that Patreon. Also, if you're a paid YouTube member and you haven't gotten the link for that Discord, let me know and I'll get it over to you because that's part of your package as well. That's where I'm going to live during games and talk to the other members of the community over there. So just another reason to head over to Patreon. It's $10 a month for every single thing that I do, including free access to my Substack. So again, thanks you guys. Thank you so much. Let me see if I can do this. I don't have my normal mixer, but okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. I really appreciate you watching. I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. Thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow with the Seahawks Syndicate, you guys. We're going every other week now. Myself, Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest, Bryce Coots of the Seahawks Eye, the Hawks Eye podcast, and then Mookie Alexander, managing editor of Field Goals. We are going to be convening the Syndicate tomorrow to talk all things Seahawks and get you caught up and get you ready for Thanksgiving. We'll probably, as Mike McDonald did on his coach's show yesterday, talk about our favorite Thanksgiving food. We'll probably talk about some non-football things. In fact, I know we will because I'm in charge of this one. I'll be hosting it, so I'll make sure that we do that. By the way, if you didn't watch my real-time reaction to Mike McDonald's coach's show yesterday, I always think he's more revealing in those interviews, and I love reacting to them. Check that out if you would. Until then, forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks for watching, you guys. Really appreciate it.